Barry never had a bad match.
We have some super chats, so I'm bouncing back over to this section of the chat coming in, and so we're going to throw those on the screen. Arn, first from Sean Plickta. He says, Arn, I truly appreciate all you've done for wrestling. Share some thoughts about Barry Windham, please, because he's very underappreciated as a worker.
You got to understand mechanics. Barry Windham was probably, 6'6"?
Yeah.
Maybe 240, 250. He was a big guy. He was not a small guy, and he was not a weight room guy. He didn't go to the gym and lift weights. He just had that Jack Mulligan genetics that he was strong enough to pick up the Road Warriors, do a side suplex, do a front suplex. I mean, he was strong enough to pick up anybody. He could superplex Van Vader off the top rope, but he moved so effortlessly, like a Brad Armstrong, smooth. He just had it all, and he was a handsome guy. The girls loved him. The grandmothers, the grandfathers loved him. The kids loved him. Right. The boys loved him.
Everybody loved him.
I mean, there was no downer where Barry Windham was concerned. He was just somebody that if you were choosing a crew, he would be one of your top 5 guys. If you were putting a wrestling company together, hey, I want that guy certainly on my team.
I think too, for us, especially as we reflect back and watch more of the old school wrestling, us nostalgia fans that reflect back and are going back, and now we have access to things like YouTube and the network and Peacock and all that. You go back and you watch him now, and you even find that you have an even more of an appreciation for him and what he brought to the ring and his skill set than you did maybe as a kid necessarily watching him, right? You know, good guys, bad guys, who you hated, who you cheered, you know, hellacious promos, maybe crazy angles, but for the appreciation of the wrestling ability now, you know, looking at it through more of a mature lens, a longer time wrestling fan as we've all gotten older, you're like, man, Arn, to your point, he was so good, so smooth, and could do it all. And I wish we did appreciate, to your point, you know, Sean, who asked the question, I wish we did appreciate him more like we should, because he was phenomenal.
Yeah, no joke. I dare say, you know, Barry never had a bad match. I mean, he could bring a guy that was green or young up to a certain level that he had never been brought up before. He could be competitive with that guy and make him look better than what he actually was. He didn't have any flaws in his work whatsoever. Next question.
Scott Golden, last question. Wants to know if you remember any health problems Barry Windham had at this time, as he seemed to gain and lose weight quite frequently.
During this time?
Yeah, during this era.
I would guarantee almost it wasn't health problems. It was just how much did Barry party that week.
I got you.
Because he could go and go and go. Up at this point in time, I know for sure he was, you know, still had a, you know, great work ethic and just, you know, a big gas tank. So if he put on a few pounds, it was just because he had probably drank 100 mixed drinks that weekend, or 3 cases of beer, or whatever it was he was drinking. It never affected his work, though. I never saw him when he couldn't just go and go and go.
Here's the other thing too. This is probably the days before, you know, nice healthy catering at the venue, and so you guys are running on, you know, whatever you can find at the local fast food joints or gas stations, or, you know, whatever it could be too. So it's not like you have the best options at your fingertips running the roads as much as you guys were.
Yeah, that's for sure. It was, you know, a much relaxed lifestyle. Let's put it to you that way.
There you go.
And Barry was not, the thing is, he was not a gym guy. If he drank 30 beers, he did not get up and go sweat it out. He sweated out at work, you know, and if he didn't wrestle that night and he just maybe had an interview or something, maybe he looked like he was holding a little fluid.
There you go. The other thing I wanted to touch on here is what we saw at the end, and that was the interaction between Barry and Steve Austin. Because, listen, Arn, those two guys would go on to have an incredible feud in 1992, and they spilled buckets of blood. Why do you think the combination of Barry and Austin just works so well together?
Austin is in that Ivan Koloff of keep coming forward no matter what. He's almost like a friggin' robot. And Barry Windham, if you just watched, you saw glimpses of Barry Windham at when he was his best. When he took that phone and went off on the guy's leg, it was crisp and violent, and it was just all those things that Barry Windham was. Barry Windham was another one of the all-time greats, and it looked like he's trying to cripple the guy, and it just worked for the angle.
I love what you said there about Barry being one of the all-time greats. And for those that, maybe not as familiar as Steve Austin's run here in WCW, or maybe even earlier than WCW, what he did in World Class or USWA or wherever he worked in the Texas, federations and the Texas promotions. But he gets to work with guys like Barry Windham. And then you see down the road, Austin eventually is going to work with the Shawn Michaels and the Triple H's and the Undertakers. But one thing that you can't forget is the days of him working with the Dustin Rhodes and the Ricky Steamboats and the Barry Windhams. And how much do you think that helped prepare him for that bigger run in WWF because of the foundation that he had?
Well, absolutely. I mean, he's like Ivan Koloff. I've said before, Ivan Koloff was a guy that was just a machine. He just kept attacking, and if you didn't fight him, he'd eat you up. Austin was kind of same that way. He just kept coming, and he would make you really work hard. You better be in cardio shape. You get in a match with Steve Austin because, buddy, he's going to put the pressure on you.
And I think, too, is this the grooming of a pro wrestler. And sometimes you don't stop and think about it. We've talked about Dustin. We've talked about Brock. And we talked about, the grooming period that has to go on for a wrestler as they continue to evolve. And sometimes it's not really, you don't think about it as much. But here we are talking about Stone Cold Steve Austin. I keep saying Stone Cold because, that's what he became famous for. But here we are talking about stunning Steve Austin working with guys and legends like Barry Windham and Ricky Steamboat. And I just want to make sure that, it's out there. That's all what it takes to start building a Hall of Fame career, man.
Yeah, you just keep adding a layer and another layer and another layer. And you learn different things by watching the greats perform because they're all different. If you watch all those guys in the ring, they're all different. Their styles are different. Everything they do is different. And that's what you did in those days. You see a lot of repetitive stuff these days, and in the course of a night you may see the same dive 6-7 times. In those days you had 4 or 5 things that you did, and you might not do them all in every match, and it was things that you did well. You wouldn't do stuff that you didn't do well. It was just common sense. Barry Windham used to be a great guy to travel with because he would identify a restaurant that wasn't that really marked that well, but I guess it would be the smoke coming out of the something, but he knew what was a good barbecue restaurant, and man, we used to stop and load up. Brisket, God almighty.
So you gave us a recommendation a couple of weeks ago about Calhoun's. I think that was the name of it, right? When you think about Texas, are there a couple or one or two or anything can't miss stops in Arn's memory bank that says, damn, if we're going to that town, I want to go to that place? Is there anything that you can think of on recommendation?
Every restaurant that looks like a shack.
I love it. Go to the shacks and you won't be disappointed.
Brother, you walk in the door, you'll know when you look up and see the Boston butts lined up on that huge grill and the brisket and the ribs.
Oh, you're talking my love language now.
Corn on the cob, baked beans.
Man, that sounds amazing.
Holy smokes. And they're everywhere.
Oh, Well, it sounds like if we ever take this trip on the road, we're going to take a tour of Texas and do it right and do a man versus food. And I guarantee you, man will win if it's you and me, Arn. You know what I'm saying? Come on.
I'm not scared.
I'm not scared either.